FPS. The Federal Protective Service guards federal government buildings and the people inside. It operates within the Department of Homeland Security. FPS officers secure courthouses, offices, and high-risk federal facilities nationwide. They control access, patrol interior corridors, and enforce security rules. FPS uses uniformed officers and criminal investigators with arrest powers. They screen visitors, monitor cameras, and test alarms. Officers evaluate threats, draft security plans, and coordinate drills. When danger appears, they deploy quickly and work with local police. For example, an individual attempts forced entry at a federal courthouse. FPS officers lock exterior doors and move staff to safe rooms. A contact team intercepts the suspect at the vestibule and disarms him. The building remains secure, and court operations continue. If FPS fails, federal sites and staff face direct physical risk. Next, EPA. The Criminal Investigations enforces federal environmental laws through criminal cases. It belongs to the Environmental Protection Agency. Special agents investigate intentional pollution, false reporting, and hazardous waste crimes. Their focus is willful violations that endanger people or ecosystems. Agents work like detectives with scientific support. They interview witnesses, serve subpoenas, and obtain warrants. Forensics teams test soil, water, and air samples for toxins. Investigators build cases with lab data, digital records, and undercover work. For example, agents uncover a covert pipeline dumping solvents into wetlands. Sampling reveals banned compounds far above legal limits. Search warrants seize shipment logs and chemical purchase records. The company executive is arrested and the discharge is stopped. If EPA agents fail, toxic releases spread and communities suffer harm. Next, NOAA. It protects ocean resources and marine wildlife. Officers patrol coastal waters, sanctuaries, and distant fisheries. They enforce catch limits, gear restrictions, and protected species rules. Their mission is sustainable use of the sea. NOAA agents board vessels and inspect holds and gear. They track vessel locations using satellite data and AIS records. When violations appear, they seize illegal catch and issue citations. They coordinate with the Coast Guard and international partners at sea. For example, officers board a trawler using prohibited mesh near a sanctuary. The net shows unlawful size and bycatch risks. The catch is documented, and the net is seized as evidence. The vessel returns to port under enforcement escort. If NOAA enforcement fails, overfishing and habitat damage accelerate unchecked. Next, NPS. National Park Service rangers enforce laws on public lands. They protect natural features, cultural sites, and millions of visitors. Rangers patrol trails, campgrounds, and historic structures daily. They also manage search and rescue and fire response. Law enforcement rangers investigate vandalism, assault, and wildlife poaching. They conduct traffic stops and DUI investigations on park roads. Rangers coordinate medical evacuations for injured hikers. They carry sidearms and hold federal arrest authority on park property. For example, rangers find an illegal campsite with cut timber. The occupant admits to harvesting wood from a protected area. Evidence is collected, and a citation is issued with restitution. The site is restored and the area resecured. If park enforcement fails, treasured resources erode and visitors face danger. Next, FWS. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service enforces wildlife protection laws. Special agents and wildlife officers safeguard refugees and species. They target poaching, illegal trade, and habitat destruction. Their work shields both biodiversity and lawful hunters. Agents inspect cargo at ports and airports for contraband. They run covert operations against black market wildlife dealers. Enforcement includes seizing skins, horns, and protected birds. Officers also support refuge safety and visitor compliance. For example, investigators track online ads selling protected falcons. A controlled delivery confirms the seller's role in trafficking. Agents seize the birds and arrest the organizer at pickup. The smuggling route collapses, and the birds receive care. If this enforcement fails,
Endangered species vanish and ecosystems destabilize. Next.
CID. CID investigates serious crimes involving soldiers and Army property. It operates worldwide on posts and in deployed environments. Agents address violent offenses, financial crimes, and national security threats. The goal is discipline, readiness, and justice. CID agents process crime scenes and gather forensic evidence. They interview witnesses and coordinate with prosecutors. When espionage or sabotage appears, they partner with counterintelligence. They also work with civilian police for mixed jurisdiction cases. For example, a unit reports weapon components missing from an armory. CID reviews access logs and surveillance footage. A sting operation captures the thief during a sale off-post. Stolen parts are recovered and the suspect is charged. If CID fails, readiness erodes and serious crime goes unpunished. AFOSI. Air Force OSI conducts felony investigations and counterintelligence operations. It protects installations, personnel, and sensitive technology. Agents handle fraud, homicide, and insider threats alike. They also monitor foreign intelligence risks. OSI blends criminal investigation with security operations. Teams analyze cyber intrusions and supply chain compromise. Agents pursue export control violations and technology theft. Their work blocks adversaries from acquiring Air Force capabilities. For example, OSI learns of a plan to ship avionics abroad. Agents track communications and build a controlled purchase. The transaction confirms illegal export activity. Arrests follow, and the sensitive equipment is secured. If OSI fails, critical technology leaks, and missions face higher risk. NCIS. It safeguards the Navy and Marine Corps from crime and threats. Agents investigate homicide, sexual assault, fraud, and espionage. They also protect ships, ports, and deployed units. Maritime security is their focus. NCIS blends forensic work, interviews, and technical surveillance. Agents track contraband entering naval facilities. They coordinate with host nations during deployments. Cyber teams protect networks from intrusion and sabotage. For example, NCIS detects a contractor stealing classified schematics. A search warrant locates files on an external drive. The suspect is arrested, and the breach is contained. Damage assessments guide remediation across the program. If NCIS fails, ships, sailors, and secrets face heightened danger. Next, USCG. The Coast Guard enforces maritime law and protects life at sea. It is both a military service and a law enforcement agency. Crews board vessels, inspect cargo, and ensure safety compliance. They also execute search and rescue and disaster response. Maritime law enforcement targets drugs, smuggling, and unsafe operations. Cutters and aircraft track suspect boats in coastal zones. Boarding teams verify documentation and equipment. Violations lead to detentions, seizures, or arrests. For example, a cutter spots a darkened go-fast vessel at night. A pursuit ends with a compliant boarding. Hidden compartments reveal compressed narcotics. The crew is detained, and the shipment is seized. If Coast Guard enforcement fails, coastal security and safety decline sharply. Next, FAMS. Federal air marshals fly undercover to protect commercial flights. They blend with passengers but remain mission-ready. Their objective is to deter and defeat in-flight attacks. They support crews during crises in the cabin. Air marshals receive close-quarters firearms and tactics training. They analyze behavior and choose strategic seating. When indicators escalate, they intervene decisively. Coordination with pilots ensures cockpit security protocols are followed. For example, a passenger tries to breach the cockpit after takeoff. An air marshal restrains the suspect with minimal force. The aircraft diverts to the nearest field. Local police take custody, and no one is harmed. If air marshals fail, aircraft and passengers face catastrophic risk. Next, CBP. It secures borders and regulates lawful trade and travel. Officers and specialists work at airports, seaports, and land crossings. They inspect people, cargo, and conveyances entering the country. Their job is to block threats and facilitate legitimate flow. CBP uses X-ray imaging, canine teams, and analytics. Officers verify documents and question travelers. Advance targeting flags, high-risk shipments for inspection. When contraband appears, officers seize it and detain suspects. For example, officers examine a container with anomalies on scan. A hidden compartment reveals counterfeit electronics. The shipment is seized and the importer investigated. A broader network is identified through shipping records. If CBP fails, dangerous goods and bad actors cross unchecked. Next, USBP Border Patrol patrols between legal ports of entry. Agents operate in deserts, mountains, and river zones. They intercept illegal crossings, smugglers, and traffickers. The mission is border security across remote terrain. Agents use sensors, drones, and tracking techniques. They respond to incursions and provide medical aid when needed. Teamwork with CBP air assets improves coverage in vast sectors. Arrested individuals move into the federal process. For example, agents follow signs leading from a breached fence line. A group carries backpacks filled with synthetic pills. The seizure removes potent narcotics from circulation. Smugglers are taken into custody for prosecution. If Border Patrol fails, long stretches of border remain unguarded. Next, ICE. This enforces immigration law and investigates transnational crimes. Homeland Security Investigations focuses on criminal networks. Enforcement and removal operations manages custody and removals. Together, they target fraud, trafficking, and unlawful presence. HSI agents conduct complex, long-term investigations. They pursue human smuggling, export violations, and cyber-enabled fraud. ERO officers locate and remove individuals with final orders. Both branches coordinate with prosecutors and foreign partners. For example, HSI disrupts a ring forging travel documents. Undercover purchases secure proof of the crime. Search warrants seize printers, blanks, and records. The ringleader is arrested and the victims identified. If ICE fails, criminal networks expand and immigration law weakens. Next, USMS. The Marshal's Service protects the federal judiciary and hunts fugitives. Deputies guard judges, jurors, and witnesses. They run the witness security program and move prisoners. Asset forfeiture units manage seized criminal proceeds. Fugitive operations track violent offenders across jurisdictions. Deputies develop leads, conduct surveillance, and make arrests. Court security teams manage high-risk trials. Transportation units move prisoners by air and ground securely. For example, a violent fugitive flees after a federal indictment. Marshals analyze phone data and financial activity. A coordinated arrest occurs at a motel without injuries. The defendant returns to face the court. If marshals fail, fugitives roam free, and trials face threats. Next, ATF. This agency enforces federal firearms and explosives laws. It investigates arson and regulates alcohol and tobacco trade. Agents target gun trafficking, bombings, and illegal manufacturing. Their cases reduce violent crime and protect communities. ATF uses tracing, ballistics, and undercover buys. Crime gun intelligence links weapons to shooters and suppliers. Inspectors audit licensed dealers for compliance. When patterns emerge, task forces strike trafficking pipelines. For example, agents infiltrate a ring shipping ghost guns. Controlled purchases confirm the illegal builds and transfers. Search warrants seize receivers, jigs, and completed weapons. Organizers are arrested and distribution ends. If ATF fails, illegal guns and explosives fuel violence. Next, DEA. It enforces the Controlled Substances Act against trafficking networks. Agents dismantle cartels, labs, and distribution hubs. Investigations reach suppliers, chemists, and financiers. The goal is to cut supply chains at scale. DEA blends undercover operations with wire intercepts and informants. Diversion units target prescription fraud and pill mills. Foreign offices coordinate with partner nations. Seizures include cash, chemicals, and manufacturing equipment. For example, agents locate a synthetic opioid lab near a warehouse district. A no-knock warrant secures evidence and arrests. Precursor chemicals and pill presses are seized. Neighborhoods avoid a wave of overdoses. If DEA fails, Dangerous drugs spread and cartels grow stronger. Next, FBI. The FBI investigates terrorism, espionage, cybercrime, and major crimes. It is the nation's lead domestic security service. Agents collect intelligence, build cases, and make arrests. Analysts fuse data to identify threats early. The Bureau runs joint task forces with local partners. Cyber squads hunt intrusions targeting critical infrastructure. Civil rights teams investigate hate crimes and color of law cases. Organized crime units disrupt powerful enterprises. For example, analysts trace malicious code in a hospital breach. Agents identify operators using cryptocurrency trails. Coordinated arrests occur in multiple districts. Systems are restored and victims receive guidance. If the FBI fails, public safety and national security degrade quickly. Next, USSS. The SS protects national leaders and investigates financial crimes. Protection covers the president, vice president, and visiting heads. Investigations target counterfeiting, payment fraud, and network intrusions. Both missions rely on intelligence and rapid response. Protection details advance every site and event. Agents survey routes, establish perimeters, and stage medical support. Investigations use digital forensics and financial analysis. Close coordination with local police is constant. For example, investigators detect a large card skimming network. Raids seize encoders, stolen data, and cash. Coordinated arrests remove the group's operators. Financial institutions harden defenses and notify victims. If the Secret Service fails, leaders in financial systems face severe risk. Next, DCIS. It investigates crimes affecting Defense Department programs. Agents target procurement fraud, theft, and cyber intrusions. The mission protects warfighters and saves taxpayer funds. Oversight extends from factories to forward locations. DCIS audits contracts and monitors supply chains. They pursue bribery, bid rigging, and counterfeit parts. Cyber teams investigate intrusions at defense contractors. Cases move to federal prosecutors for action. For example, a vendor supplies substandard aircraft bolts. Testing exposes metal fatigue far below spec. DCIS seizes shipments and arrests executives for fraud. Aircraft safety improves and funds are recovered. If DCIS fails, troops face unsafe gear and wasted resources. Next, DSS. It provides law enforcement and protective security for diplomacy. Agents protect the Secretary of State and U.S. missions abroad. They investigate passport fraud, visa fraud, and trafficking. Overseas, they partner with host police against terror threats. DSS surveys facilities, runs drills, and trains local guards. Protective teams manage motorcades and secure venues. Investigators dismantle document mills and travel fraud rings. Threat intelligence flows back to every embassy. For example, a threat emerges against a consulate event. DSS shifts the venue and strengthens screening. Surveillance identifies conspirators scouting approaches. Local police and DSS make arrests before the event. If DSS fails, diplomats and embassies become high-value targets. USCP. Capitol Police protect Congress and the Capitol complex. Officers screen visitors, patrol grounds, and secure chambers. They manage major events and demonstrations with care. The mission preserves legislative continuity. Capitol Police investigate threats, assaults, and security breaches. Intelligence units track rhetoric and plans. Tactical teams respond to active threats quickly. Coordination with regional partners is routine. For example, officers detect a concealed weapon during screening. The individual is detained quietly for investigation. Weapons charges follow, and the session proceeds safely. Security posture remains firm yet measured. If the Capitol Police fail, lawmakers and the process face danger. Next, USPIS. Postal inspectors investigate crimes involving the mail. They protect postal employees, facilities, and customers. Cases include mail theft, fraud, and dangerous mailings. The mail stream remains a critical national system. Inspectors use forensics, surveillance, and controlled deliveries. Analysts map fraud schemes using postal data. Dangerous items trigger bomb squads and hazmat teams. Cooperation with other agencies is common. For example, inspectors trace a sweepstakes scam targeting seniors. Undercover mailings identify the organizer's P.O. box. A search warrant recovers cash and victim lists. The fraud stops and victims receive support. If inspectors fail, criminals exploit mail to harm the public. Next, BIA Police. This police is on tribal lands. Officers serve communities across reservations nationwide. They work with tribal police and federal partners. The aim is safety, trust, and justice. BIA officers patrol schools, roads, and community spaces. They investigate assaults, drug activity, and weapons crimes. Officers support tribal courts and serve warrants. Cultural understanding strengthens community policing. For example, shots are reported near a reservation clinic. Officers secure the area and detain a suspect. A rifle is recovered and no patients are hurt. Charges follow in federal court. If BIA policing fails, vulnerable communities face sustained harm. APHIS. It protects agriculture and animal health. Officers stop invasive pests and contagious diseases. They inspect cargo, baggage, and live animals. The mission is food security and biosecurity. Inspectors use sniffer dogs, x-rays, and lab testing. They quarantine risky shipments and seize illegal products. Investigations address animal cruelty and unlawful imports. Surveillance watches for livestock outbreaks. For example, officers find illegally imported pork products. Testing detects a high-risk livestock disease. The shipment is destroyed under protocol. Domestic herds remain protected from contamination. If APHIS fails, farms and food systems face devastating outbreaks. Next, BLMLE. It protects resources on public lands. Rangers cover deserts, forests, and grasslands. They enforce rules on grazing, mining, and recreation. The focus is safe, lawful use of shared lands. Rangers investigate illegal dumping and theft of artifacts. They support wildfire response and hazardous incidents. Search and rescue operations assist lost visitors. Partnerships span sheriffs, state agencies, and federal teams. For example, rangers uncover an illegal off-road trail in habitat. Vehicles are seized and fines issued on scene. Damage assessments guide restoration efforts. The area recovers and enforcement is visible. If BLM enforcement fails, public lands degrade and risks increase. Which agency's role surprised you most today? Share one insight in the comments